Okay, guys, so I'm trying to kind of keep things relatively concise this week. This chapter is all about putting data together, going from the stage of having data in your survey or collecting data from your supermarket scanner, and then getting the data in a form that it can be analyzed. And in some ways, there's not actually that much in this chapter, but it does introduce us to this process of working with data, which is why I wanted kind of a few videos of how to do this in SPSS, and hence one of the reasons for the change of format this week. Okay, so my first job, I worked for Dow Jones, and one of my first things is Dow Jones were going to a new CRM system, and previously, all the sales forces in the different countries all over the world stored their data in different ways. Some had it in Excel spreadsheets, other people had it in their email systems, a few people had their own kind of custom proprietary customer software, and we were trying to standardize across the world. You know, the advantage of this is when we were reporting, we would actually get a consistent view of data all over the world. So, say one of our clients was Merrill Lynch, the kind of the big investment bank. They can see how much business they're doing with Dow Jones in different, you know, by country, by region, by service, all over the world, which was kind of important. Um, and one of the things that was a challenge for me is we had lots of little data sets and they were all in different formats. Some of these were bad quality. Um, this idea of data integrity means, you know, if we have one record for a company, that's kind of consistent throughout our data set. We don't have duplicate records. We don't have, you know, bad data, missing data, etc. So I had to deal with this situation of maybe a lack of data integrity. We had inconsistent data from all these different Excel spreadsheets and data sets, and I had to put it into one single format. We also have to ensure, you know, going back to the stuff that we did earlier in class, that if we have interview data, we understand, you know, some of the biases, the response and the non-response biases that are inherent in our data. So this is kind of what I was going to do originally as a class discussion, but we won't worry about this. So I have a nice Dilbert cartoon here. I don't want to make. I know a lot of you guys are moving into sales, and I've worked in sales departments. But generally, a lot of salespeople are focused on making the sale. You know, that's what they're good at. They're very good people. They want to kind of close the deal, get their commission. So quite often, when they have to write in data into the customer system about the customer, about the product they're selling, some of that data entry project kind of process is sometimes skipped. So here's my little summary. You know, corporate data can be of really bad quality. I've seen, like, you know, the same account entered 5 times slightly differently each time. Contact data might be out of date. We may have very important information, you know, information on service dates, for example, that are completely missing. And if we're trying to put together data from different data sources, there may be different definitions. You know, going back to the example I gave earlier in the course when I talked about how in Singapore, there are very different definitions of ethnic groups from the US. So sometimes if we merge data, it can be, you know, problematic to say the least. And just a summary, you know, another way of saying this is garbage in, garbage out, trying to build complex analytical models, trying to predict who's going to purchase a product, trying to predict how much return we get from advertising spending. This is all useless if our data are not good quality. Garbage in, garbage out. So for survey data, we've kind of covered this, you know, previously in the class. To test non-response bias, I said a good way of doing this is if you have a survey, you test the first quarter, you know, the first 25% of people to respond and the last 25% of people to respond. You compare them, and if there's a difference, you know, the non-responders are probably going to be closer to the last 25%. So that's going to kind of indicate non-response bias. We could also look at patterns of missing data. I'll talk a little bit about that when we cover listing data. There may also be issues with, the bad data entered, uh, people misentering, categories such as ethnic groups, such as age, etc. My general view is when we're dealing with missing data and data quality, this is things that's best learned in practice, which is why, on next Monday, we will have quite a detailed SPSS practical in handling data. And just something from some corporate websites. This is from CIO, Chief Information Officer Insight. Some of the reasons why we need to focus on good quality data. It makes us a lot more efficient. If we have bad data, if we're trying to contact somebody to cross-sell, we get the wrong person. That's obviously, if we try to offer customer support, we get the wrong person. That's obviously not very good. This leads into customer satisfaction. If we're more competent at doing our job, our customers tend to be more satisfied, make more informed decisions. We may, for example, have had a product launch. Let's just say at Dow Jones, we had a new nurse service. If our sales data are of bad quality, we can't really see how that service is doing. So we can't know whether to, expand our promotion or cancel the service if we had bad information. And generally, also more cost savings, which relates to the points above. And again, if we have bad data, it leads to bad decisions. This eventually will hurt our brand and our reputation. So here are our most common errors. Incomplete and missing data. This is always a problem. I talked about how online surveys can prevent some of this, but it can't completely remove the problem. But when you're entering data in a corporate database, it's quite easy to miss things. Information can be out of date. Go back to my example earlier in the class where I talked about changing perceptions of same-sex marriage. If we base our strategy on data from 10, 20 years ago, that could possibly, as a corporation, get us into trouble. Duplicate data, I talked about how salespeople, different salespeople entered the same contact information in multiple times, and inconsistent data. And don't forget typos. Typos can always be a pain. When I teach my programming class in the fall, a lot of student issues is that they type that, just one letter wrong can just mess everything up. So typos in data and in coding can actually be a major issue. And this is another source from the UK, another kind of corporate survey. It's kind of done fancy, like a little bit of a process saying, hey, if you don't have good data, it's done like a machine on a factory floor. And if you get bad data quality, your machine's going to misfire and blow up, etc. So out of 100 businesses, 86 would suspect that their data are inaccurate. So most people realize they have bad quality data. 41% say, okay, out of date information is the biggest problem. 44% say missing data is the biggest problem. So again, this agrees with the US-based survey before. And here we go, 75% of companies waste an average of 14% of revenue on bad data. So they try and put some actual figures in this and say the UK, this is from the UK businesses are wasting $200 billion, $200 billion a year. Sorry, 200 million, 2 billion. I'll just forget that. $200 million a year on bad data. Apologies for that.